That happened. Did we ever? We missed one of the time? Oh, that's unfortunate. But life is crazy right now, so I'm not gonna be. Yeah. Have you guys also been like incredibly busy the last 2 weeks, even outside of like?
Yep.
Because I feel like everybody I've talked to has been like, no, these last couple weeks have been especially busy, like everywhere.
Days just fly by.
Just been sleeping a lot. It takes up a lot of time, so you can say I've been busy.
And I wish I could sleep a lot.
I got in a cool 10 hours last night. Yeah, I saw that.
Oh my god. What kept you up so late? Was it Sims? It was Sims, wasn't it?
What was this guild? Oh wait, no, that's you, Shilda.
We went overtime on so many nights.
I'm calling the overtime police.
I mean, it's like 15 minutes after raid ends.
Doesn't matter.
Pull or two
That's
more.
how
I know.
That's how degeneracy starts.
It's like the opposite of us. We're like, it's like 11:20. You guys want to go to bed early?
Oh man.
Under time.
Yay, we're live.
Sweet.
The Undertime police.
The Undertime police.
Oh no. Chat is saying I think you're muted.
I find it funny because we have like 1 minute left and our raid leader goes, okay, one more pull. And everyone's like, no, not one more pull.
Yeah, I think that's fine. It's just the poll happens to go up.
Now they can hear me. Yeah, like what happened here last week is that my video card died, unfortunately. I did have a backup video card, which has put me in the Stone Age because it's a GTX 480. And so when I plugged everything back in, I did not readjust my default settings on this profile in OBS. So.
I can't even imagine running WoW on a 4. Like, I had a 560 back in like 2012 and desperately wanted to upgrade from there.
Oh, it's fun when you check that WoW actually has 100% GPU usage. It's very nice.
Imagine being bottlenecked by the GPU.
There's no Agrimar this tier.
You guys want to...
There's a lot of spell effects I legit don't even notice now because I turned my settings down low as well. It wouldn't be a huge problem if I played on 1920 by 1080, but my monitor is 2560 by 1440, so it really hurts.
So you guys want some dark magic that should not work?
Yeah.
What?
I have double monitors, but the way I have it set up is I have my main monitor connected with an HDMI to the graphics card, and then I have my other monitor directly connected to the motherboard to a VGA slot. So it's two monitors running on two different graphics cards. I have an internal graphics card. If I put WoW on window mode and I drag it to my second monitor, it will instantly start running on the other one.
Oh. You can change that in Windows, though, actually.
Yeah. It is.
That's fun.
But that reminds me, I do have 3 monitors, but now I'm only using 2 of them because this GPU is, like, if to give you an idea of how old a GTX 480 is, it has a DVI port, it has a second DVI port, and it has a mini HDMI port. Who the hell uses mini HDMI?
God, I thought you were going to say a fucking VGA port or something.
No, mini HDMI.
I've never seen a mini HDMI actually used.
I didn't even know what it was. I had to go look like, what the hell is this port? And like, oh my god.
All the things we thought we're going to catch on, but never caught
And
up.
I looked. Apparently, unless I didn't look very hard, but apparently there's no such thing as a DisplayPort to mini DVI adapter. So I could be wrong. I'll have to check again later. But
No,
having
I'm pretty
two
sure you're right.
mods
You can only
sucks.
go DP. Pretty sure DP only goes to HDMI.
It's a scuffed USB port.
Yeah, but what kind of USB? USB Mini, USB Micro, USB C, USB like
Oh, I
2.0,
hate it.
2.0.
I hate it.
Does anybody remember what the U in USB stands for?
Well, I think it stands for usable.
Ubiquitous.
U-turn, like you have to turn it like 8 times before you figure out which
Oh
way.
my god.
That
That's
is
the
the
magic.
single best and worst thing about USB-C. Like you can plug it in right every time, but it just feels so wrong.
Well, for my charging, I think it's my phone is just old enough that the plug doesn't, or maybe the cable's old. But like if I turn it in one way, it doesn't actually connect or go in all the way, and so I flip it around, and it feels like an old school USB, and it feels satisfying.
I read it stuff, by the way.
Yes, the non-meme is universal. Well,
Yeah.
but yeah, so today, what we're gonna do, we're gonna start off with a log review. It's gonna cover one of the fights from Battle of Dazar Allure, aka Troll Raid.
Let me just say, worst name for a raid.
Yeah, I don't like the name. I like the Siege better, the Siege of Atal, whatever the hell it was. Siege of Zuldazar, I think it was a better name, personally, but whatever.
How do you guys like shorten it? Because I know
BOD.
people like BF,
BOD.
BOD, Boda.
I like
Uh,
Boda,
I don't like Boda.
personally.
BFAD.
No.
BFD. Big fucking deal.
Then we'll go over some just tips for bosses. Then we'll go over some sim stuff, what's changed, what was broken, what new bugs exist in the game itself that we have discovered that make no sense. All sorts of fun content like that.
Let's start off with the log.
Yep, starting off with the log here. So I got the log open up. Our log is from Grong the Revenant Heroic. So if you're playing Horde and wondering who Grong the Revenant is, just Grong. But on the Alliance side, he's a Revenant.
Yeah,
Well,
Instead of
technically, once the
robots, they
Horde-
have little ghosties, I guess.
Well,
Yeah.
when the Horde kills him, he gets like Bomb Sanity
Res-
reses him, and then the undead version goes to go fight the Alliance. That's why the two bosses are in order, I think.
yeah.
You see.
Yeah, so even though this is Alliance, you might commonly hear us refer to the Horde names for the most part. Besides maybe Stone can correct us because he actually plays Allied for some reason.
I don't fucking know why I do it, but it's a thing that happens.
It's an
But no, yeah,
affliction.
it's the same fight essentially. The boss room is a little different. Ours is literally the Mechatork room. It's the same room where you fight Mechatork, and there's actually a bug in the Alliance side where the line of sight from Mechatork exists, even though the rocks aren't there. So you have to be careful, or you'll go line of sight from healers.
Makes sense.
Alright.
Does it really?
Yeah, there's some fun things. So our winner here is Protoss. We can see here that he is at 396 eye level in this log. So as usual, we'll start here. We'll click on his name. We'll go to the summary. We'll see what he has. He was also curious about Azerite traits and whatnot. So take a look here. So for talents, he's running Righteous Verdict, Hammer, Wake, and Divine Purpose. Divine Purpose seems a bit odd at first here. He's running an Engineering Helmet. Running Lockjaw shoulders. He's running this breastplate of RTO protection. So what we can tell right away is that he has 2 pieces of gear that have the extra ring and one that does not.
So benched is what we're saying.
Yeah, all the other gears pretty standard there. So the usual other thing we do is that we throw it in WoW Analyzer as well. Because WoW Analyzer is very useful. We have it thrown up here. Again,
Can I just say, is Ancients and Gems, even though it's mostly meaningful, is like you will seem about the same depending on your combination, confuse the shit out of me because it's a crit enchant, mastery gem, a haste gem. Like,
Like with a setup like that, he's definitely using Top Gear to sim and stuff, which is recommended. So
Yeah.
when you do use Top
Yeah.
Gear, you'll usually see a nice little mix of crit and mastery pop up.
yeah, but it's always like side grades. It even says like no matter what you use, it just weeds me out.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so,
sorry.
So what we did, we ran his character here through Top Gear. His gems and enchants are on there. They don't show up on raid bots when you manually input them for some reason, but he did not log out and he logged out in Holy, so I had to make this manually, so they don't show up. But all the gems and enchants are on there. So right away we could actually see that his best simming setup would actually be Crusade. And I also want to point out for some reason it missed the other DPS ring on this sim for some reason, but it should have been there, or was his item level too low? This Heart of Azeroth level was a bit too high for his. I forgot to change it. So his was 397. So the Heart of Azeroth level was a little bit higher. It doesn't really skew the overall DPS though. Not a huge issue. Just mainly what traits are available. So we can see here that for talents he should have been using Crusade. Crusade is really strong. It's also really strong because 2 Avengers Might plus Light's Decree and Imperium Power combined, that's a really strong setup.
Yeah, I mean, Divine Purpose like comes in with 200 DPS, but it's like Crusade is just way better in this raid anyway.
Also, I think, well, in my haste, I added Imperium Power. He probably doesn't have that. This is his piece that doesn't have the 5th ring, so he'll just have Blood Right, not Imperium Power. Just to, I guess, to point out there. So a little bit of a mistake there, but it was a little bit rushed making this.
Isn't the outside ring the first one you?
This is an old piece of gear.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, I see.
Yeah, I forgot about that when I was doing the sim. But this is an old piece of gear, so he would only have Blood Right and Heed My Call. So we'd want 2 Avengers, 1 Light's Decree, and 1, like, if you're going for single target sim, you're going to see that the relational normalization gizmo will be sim higher. If you sim AoE, like in Dungeon Slice, you'll see that Barrage of Many Bombs is higher. And in single target, the Barrage of Many Bombs isn't that much lower in DPS, so if you just want to use that in all scenarios, that's fine too.
It's like 100, not even 100 DPS difference, is it, between the two? I'm not big into engineering helmets.
Yeah, so as usual, that's just our first step. We sim the gear, see what they were using, see if they can just have an immediate improvement just by changing a talent, which in this case it is, it's using Crusade. So with that, we'll jump into our next favorite subject, which is the opener. So a couple ways to go to the opener. We're just going to use WoW Analyzer here for the most part, so we'll scroll down. We'll go to timeline. Timeline, so we can see the
can I say a disclaimer because of a lot of stuff that's come up in your questions about open?
Yes.
Your opener is not the sole reason why you're doing low DPS. A lot of people seem to attribute the opener being the only reason. Oh, I missed the opener, so clearly that's what's going on. Usually, you can have a wrong opener in 11 DPS loss, but not that big. There's other more fundamental problems that will make you lose a lot more DPS.
Yeah, what you'll see a lot of times, we talk about the opener because when we open a log and we see the opener is wrong, we know there's other issues right away. There's never a case where we check a log, the opener is wrong, and everything else is perfect. So it's just a good indicator that there's definitely some things that have to be worked on.
Yeah.
It's also just something that's really easy to fix as well.
Yeah, if you can't do a Crusade opener, most likely you're gonna fuck up doing your second Crusade and your third Crusade because you're not gonna plan how you're gonna do it. You're just gonna press it, and you don't have holy power, and your first global cooldowns are gonna be builders, and it dominoes effect.
Yeah, so on this log, he is using Divine Purpose, so the opener doesn't affect him that much, but like since Crusade is pretty popular right now, if it does some good for you, and if you mess up your Crusade opener, it will hurt you a bit more noticeably than using Wings or using Divine Purpose or Inquisition. Yeah, so first thing we see there is that the opener, he used his Wings, his Trinket, and then he waked. One thing that you don't see here, he is a Dark Iron Dwarf. So he also used his Fireblood Racial here. but for some reason the Fireblood racial does not show up in the timeline on WoW Analyzer or Warcraft logs. Which it's gonna be a Blizzard bug. Earlier this week, trinkets weren't actually showing up in the timeline. I reported that one to Cure, and he got that one fixed by him. So I reported the Dark Iron Dwarf racial as well. So hopefully that'll get fixed soon. We'll have to see. But he did use his Dark Iron Dwarf racial in this macro. I see someone asking if we're still doing the review of logs live on stream, and that's what we're doing right now. So yes.
That's exactly what we're doing. We're just starting this week with the log because it's going to be relevant for what we're going to talk afterwards.
Yeah. We usually do it later, but do it a bit early now. So one thing that's easy to check while we're here, we can go to cooldowns tab, and we can see how the other set of wings went in this fight. So because he is going into wings again with Divine Purpose, there's no really set order of when to press your buttons. One thing you can see here that you're not seeing the trinket, so what you can do is go to the timeline, go to about 2 minutes and 5 seconds, see what happened. We can see here he actually used his trinket a few seconds before wings, which is definitely, that's a big no. When you're using a trinket that provides stats, such as your Gladiators or Dallying, you want to use that in your first global cooldown inside of your wings. And if you do switch to Crusade, if it's a trinket that provides stats, you want to use it either once your Crusade is at 10 stacks, or once the time on your trinket, which in this case is 20 seconds, matches the remaining time on Crusade. So like if Crusade took you 12 seconds to get to 10 stacks, you would actually be using the trinket a little bit earlier because the trinket lasts 20 seconds. So once you have 20 seconds left on Crusade, you'd want to make sure you press that trinket. If it was 15 seconds, you'd want to press it then, or press it when you were at 10 stacks. Pretty straightforward. I also want to note here again that he used his Fireblood racial here. He actually used it before wings as well, and that's an extra big no-no because Fireblood is a really short cooldown. So you should really make sure it's inside wings.
I think most of the trinket effects that we have, at least out of the raid, don't last the 30 seconds. So you do want to be pretty careful when you're actually popping it.
And there's no big amount of debuffs in this raid that would like what's the word? That would justify saving Fireblood for whatever reason, because you do get a buff based on how many debuffs you take off. But there's no such case in this raid.
What does it affect? All debuffs?
All debuffs.
One of each type.
One of each.
So there's a couple places, I think.
Yeah, but it's not. It's just
like
not
Conclave has the curse that might be on you, but it's not worth microing and stuff like that.
It's a minor thing.
Yeah, it's gonna be if it happens that way when your cooldowns up. It's great.
I'm pretty sure it's all. It's not one of each. It's like all.
I can imagine it though. Someone they think they're gonna get it in their Conclave, and they get dispelled by someone else before they press it, and they rage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty funny.
So do you think this dude is just using like macro or something?
Well, I that's what I thought at first, but now that he has his trinket being used before and his Fireblood before, I think maybe he has 2 macros. Maybe he has one button for wings and a second button for trinket and his racial. Maybe I'm not entirely sure.
Well, what's
if you look at
the cooldown on the trinket?
I'm pretty sure it's a 2-minute. Yeah, it's a 2-minute cooldown for the Gladiators.
Because on at the very beginning of the fight, it looks like they happen at the exact.
Yeah.
So the difference might be something like if you're mashing it while your other abilities are on GCD, the trinket will go off first, and then wings on the GCD will come down later. Just another reason not to macro them together, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say either way, like
Yeah, or if you
try not to.
Or if you want to macro them together, you want to use a cast sequence macro, which we'll cover later.
He most likely has wings on one keybind and the trinket on and the close keybind, and he just uses 2 fingers on pull. That's my best guess.
Yep, so one thing that we didn't quite cover was potions. He actually used 2 potions of prolonged power. I guess potions, they're also not showing up in the timeline. In this case, for some reason, being used, but he did use prolonged power. So again, prolonged power, if you're using it because you're trying to save money, that's fine. But if you're trying to keep current, you definitely want to be using the battle potion of strength. And also, as a side note, the second potion, it was not used at an ideal time, so we'll actually hop back over to the main log where it's easier to see. We'll go to the buffs. And we can see his prolonged power. He used his second prolonged power after his wings, so he missed the benefit during there, and he used it at the very end of the fight. So he didn't get the full duration of the potion, so that was kind of a double negative there. So potion, that's gonna follow the same usage. Well, not prolonged power. Prolonged power is different, but like a battle potion of strength, I believe it lasts 25 seconds or 20 seconds, one of the two. So you would want to match the duration on your wings, or you would want to do it at 10 stacks if using Crusade, or matching duration still. Just another thing to watch there. And here's where you can see where Fireblood was used. You can tell he had the buff from it. We actually did use it, but it just doesn't show up in the timeline. There's been a lot of log bugs with this patch for some reason.
Yeah. I think that's also why there's no mechanic step on some fights yet. Because
also, if you're looking at a Jadefire log, that one is really messed up because of the 7-sided strike, or multi-sided strike. That one makes logs very fun, because you get out of range, technically. If someone's on the bottom, someone's in the game.
That is a fun minigame, though.
Oh yeah, you guys actually have 2 platforms. We just get teleported in the air.
Yeah, that's...
No, the same thing happens to us, but it just messes up the logs.
Oh, I thought you guys had like a specific platform. I don't know. Horde is weird, guys.
He says in the company of 3 Horde players and him.
Yeah, who's the odd one out here?
Look, it's perfectly normal to be an Alliance roleplay player. I'm gonna let the silence kick in. Yeah.
Alright, so something else that we do here is, like, in this case, we can see that the spell cooldowns aren't being shown. It'll say spell cooldown durations could not be shown because the spell's spec durations have not figured yet, which that's actually not quite the case. It's sometimes what happens if there's a haste buff and for some reason it doesn't get tracked, Bot Analyzer will recognize that the spell cooldowns aren't lining up, so it just actually disables them. Which happened in this case. Haste is very special. As we know, it reduces the cooldowns on our main abilities like Crusader Strike, Blade, Judgment, and Hammer. And it also reduces the global cooldown. It is a little bit annoying when this happens, but we gotta work through it. But in this case, what we're seeing a lot of Judgment being prioritized over Blade. And these are happening quite frequently. And they're happening in cases where Blade is already off a cooldown.
When we talked earlier about fundamental mistakes, this is one of them.
Yeah, you can see it just constantly.
It's happening one time, but constantly happening will hamper your DPS.
And one thing is, it's easy to see because if you do it that way, they end up with the coming off cooldown at pretty much the same time. And so you can see almost every time there, it's just Judge Blade and one. So if you can desync them, you get a lot more in.
This might be a dumb suggestion, but if you really can't break that habit, switch the keybind. Like, if it's just muscle memory, flip the keybinds, literally. So you don't have to reteach yourself, you know? That's what I would do.
Yep. Yeah, for the technical explanation, like Shoal said, they'll come off a cooldown at the same time. That's because the default cooldown on Judgment is 12 seconds, which happens to be 7 global cooldowns, and the default cooldown on Blade of Justice is 10.5 seconds, which is 6 global cooldowns, are 1 less global cooldown than Judgment. So if you use Judgment first, once Blade is available and you press Blade, they'll both come off cooldown at the same time. And just for that question there, asking if you have to resubmit your log each time there's a ret giveaway, and the answer is yes. Anytime there's a new ret log giveaway, you have to submit your log again if you want a chance to be reviewed. It gets reset every week.
It's mostly so we don't get outdated stuff. We want to review mostly current content.
Yeah, so also, while we're here, something that we're seeing that pops up is that we're seeing Shader Strike being prioritized over Hammer Wrath.
That's probably even a bigger offender than Church being prioritized for Blade.
Yeah, Hammer's really good. Mostly just for the extra holy power.
Oh.
Even the damage. That's more damage than Crusader as well.
And they still look spaced out pretty similarly. It's also...
Yeah, it's a little bit hard to see, especially if you're new to looking at logs and don't have the bars show up, but it becomes a lot more obvious in those other cases. And I'll bring up a different log later to show what it looks like. I'll try another fight to see if it actually works. But yeah, 2 common things there: getting the prioritization of abilities wrong. That's something that you could work on there.
Again, and I'm gonna sound like a broken record each week. It's totally fine to use a rotation helper. It's totally fine to have Achille guide you, because you do need to learn, you do need to practice, and there's no shame in using whatever help is there.
So I think Tom brought it up earlier in the week, actually, in the Discord, and it's something like I've felt this way for a long time, and he put it very well. Literally everybody who plays the game uses something to help them track their ability cooldowns and their buffs, and they're like literally everybody uses something to track this. I weak words for my buffs and my ability, and something like Achille is just formatting it in a different way that makes it easier for you personally to see that sort of thing. Yeah. But it's not like it's a crutch or it's something you're relying on, or it makes you a worse player or you're not as good. Like everybody uses these things, and it's just a different form. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just whatever helps you.
Plus, we always stress, like, you know, you're not going to parse if you don't kill the boss, so whatever you need to do to make it so you can focus on the mechanics of the fight easy and, like, mess up less and be more efficient, do it. There's a reason add-ons exist, you know? Like, there's no shame in doing what you need to do to make sure your focus is where it needs to be to kill the boss more efficiently, right?
Yeah, so just echo again, nothing wrong with using heat killing. The only thing you don't want to use it blindly. If you're just using it to press buttons and you're new, you're going to do that at first. You're just going to be pressing it blindly. But the important thing is to actually learn why it's telling you to press something, so you have a better idea, so you know why it's telling you to press a certain button.
And then the next step would be realizing, okay, not only am I doing mechanics and on for the rotation, how will my rotation change because of mechanics coming up, right?
Yeah, and one thing to mention about Heat Killing is it will not show the proper opener. So the opener is one thing you want to learn yourself. I know there is an opener question in chat. We'll get to it later. We'll go over some more openers later. This is called WoW Analyzer. Just wowanalyzer.com.
It goes through logs and gives you enough another view from them, easier to go through.
Also, this dude is not using Crusade, so right on this one.
Yeah, he's not. He's using Divine Purpose.
Although, one more thing, just looking at this, using things like Divine Shield or Shield of Vengeance or Steed, I guess at the end there, they're just much more valuable globals, and so it's not ideal. If you have to do it to deal with mechanics, obviously do that. You can't parse if the boss doesn't die, right? But those are the kind of things you might want to watch out for as well.
Yeah, so this first Shield of Vengeance is one thing we're going to go over. You can see here that only half of his absorbs were used, so he used Shield of Vengeance twice, and here's what happened the first time. We'll go back to the log. which makes it a bit easier to see. So first here, we'll look Shield of Vengeance here. It was used at around 17 seconds. So we'll go to his log, we'll go to damage taken, and we'll go to events. And we can see what actually happened around 17 seconds here. Is he stood in the slam. So he reacted to the slam after it already went out, and then he used his shield.
So you can also, on the aura filters at the top there, you can actually see how much damage went into the shield, and I'm pretty sure this is almost nothing.
Yeah. He didn't get that much absorb at all.
Yeah, in that first one, it doesn't look like there were
no absorb from his first shield. It was all from his
shield. Shield should not be used, in my opinion, reactively. Like, all fights seem to have some damage. Like, damage is going to happen at any point. If it's Gronk, for example, Death Knell is going to happen. For you guys, it's Tantrum, I believe. For Horde, yeah. Just pre-plan around that. If you know Tantrum is coming, you use shield, then it's gonna pop, and it's gonna, your healers will be thankful, and you'll be using it without wasting anything.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that he probably did mean to use it on Tantrum or Death Knell, because he did it later. Just he reacted that first time because he wasn't expecting it. He wasn't expecting to get hit. He got freaked out, so he pressed his defensive button.
I mean, also in general, in fights, if you know the damage patterns that are coming out, not only is it good for Shield of Vengeance, but you know when like you can take a hit and then not. So like after you get hit with that, what was it, the slam? I don't know what it's called on the Alliance side, but like you know that the next source of damage coming out probably isn't coming out for quite a while. If you're at low health, you're not even really in danger at that point, so you don't have to worry too much.
There's very few fights where you want to use Shield of Vengeance react.
Yep.
Did anyone have any closing remarks on this log? Well, I guess what we should do is we should definitely highlight some of the good things and not ignore those, because there's definitely good things in here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one, he did consume all of his judgments. It's very easy to like judge one of the robots or the spirits and have it die and you miss a judgment, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. The robots do need to die, but it's usually not so important you have to use judgment and watch it die. For his Righteous Verdict, he did get 5.53% damage overall from Righteous Verdict, or 86% buffed cast. That's very good. So even though he is making those minor rotational mistakes, overall his rotation isn't horrible by any means. So he's doing really good in regards to that talent there.
Especially uptime, like just keeping up on the boss, you'll see things like the Righteous Verdict stuff get better, and so that's a really good job.
Yeah, he's not doing the most common mistake that new people do, which is they don't know why they're not doing DPS. Oh, I'm following my rotation, and then you have to tell them you were 80% uptime on the boss. You freaked out. You horsed away way too far with that debuff that you didn't need to. Some people are uncomfortable in some fights, and they don't have enough uptime, and it doesn't matter how good your rotation is. If you're 20% of time out of the boss when you could have been there, then you're not going to do damage.
No, staying alive is better than dying to mechanics if you're not.
Yeah.
But at the same time, maybe it's just not a familiarity of the fight or whatever. But uptime, especially with rotations being a fair bit more simple, and there's not a lot of like finesse that you can do and like pre-planning, like 10 seconds in advance for big bursts or whatever. Just getting that uptime and making sure you're staying on the boss is a huge thing. And it looks like this guy's got over 99, which is pretty much what you're expecting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also to mention, because a lot of classes, some aren't really affected by downtime because the resources, they recharge over time. Whereas for us, our resources are based on cooldowns. So if our cooldowns are not on cooldown and we're not hitting the boss, we're losing damage. We don't really get any benefit from being out of range. It's just a big negative. Yeah, so now with that said, going over some of the good things there, was there anything else that we wanted to talk about this log in general?
Not particularly. I think we went over everything in the log.
It's a good log, you know? Like,
Yeah, we have had way worse logs in here for going by a submission, but it is basically a person that seems to have an idea what he's doing, but has some fundamental mistakes they probably isn't aware.
Yeah. It looks like this person's biggest problem is he's got some like residual muscle memory from Legion.
Yeah. So one thing I'll cover here is openers. Again, this is just my guide. I'm just used to going to my guide. I'm not trying to shit on other guides. I know Reb's here. Reb writes a Wowhead. She has openers on her guide as well in Wowhead. But we're just gonna use my guide here because it was the first thing that popped into my head. So again, on my site, if you're using my guide, just drop down. There's a red guide here. It's the main section. So the openers are part of our rotation or of our priority system. The priority system here. Openers and cooldowns here. So you can go to openers. And you got a bunch of different openers here for different talent builds. Because it does change a little bit based on talents while you're using. So you can find one that works for you for your talent build. So one common thing that I'll see people ask, will say, hey, I'm using Righteous Verdict, Hammer Wrath, Wake, and Crusade. You don't have a talent build list or an opener listed for that. What should I do? Well, you should just take the execution sentence one. You see which ends here. Just replace this with Templar's Verdict. And that's your opener. It's really flexible like that. Like here, like for this one, for Zeal, Hal, Khan's Crusade, I mean, it would be a bit different there. But anytime you see a Hammer or Wrath used, an opener, if you're not using Hammer or Wrath, just use Crusader Strike. They're interchangeable like that in the open. There's something else that serves the same purpose. There's also just some general tips there.
And you can see in common, there's a lot of very similar things across most of the. So even if you're unsure, if it's not specifically listed there, like you said, you can probably find one that's pretty close and either make some small adjustments or just find one that works.
I did remember one thing I wanted to say about the log that is relevant to mistakes that people do. Luckily, it wasn't his case, but when we find logs of people with 0 holy power wasted, most likely they held Crusade for they held Wake for way too damn long. Luckily, he actually didn't. That's probably one of the first times I see someone with 0 waste that doesn't do that. That doesn't hold it massively, but a common mistake that people do is they're like, "Oh, I keep going to 1 holy power. I don't want to waste my Wake." Just waste 1 holy power. Like, holding Wake is worse.
Yeah. Now the other counterpoint with if you have 0 waste on, you might be spending your holy power too early and like 3 spend, 3 spend, 3 spend instead of trying to make sure you're keeping your builders on CD a bit more.
He did build to 5 most of the time.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. I just mean like those can be symptoms of it. So if you see it and you wonder why it's not as expected, but like again, having 0 waste on Wake isn't. It's just those are some things that you might see related to.
Yeah. So like if you scroll up here, for example, you'll see like Wake of Ashes will at 0 holy power, or if you're at 1 holy power and your Blade of Justice is on cooldown for a GCD or longer. So if you can't get those 2 right away with your blade, you go ahead and Wake. And you waste that 1, not a huge deal. You never want to waste more than 1.
There's also the other counter case of people that build the 5 inside Crusade before 10 stacks. Which is...
Just don't do that, please.
Yeah,
well,
especially
I see it way too often.
Like, especially now that Crusade only goes to 10 stacks.
10, yeah.
You can basically set it up so that you own it. It's spender, builder, spender, builder, spender. Like, no matter if you've got Wake, especially, because you can even start with just 3 with Wake and you're good. But start with 5. You spend, you build up, you got to spend again. Maybe you have to Wake to get back up to 5. Who knows? But you can always get those in what? I think it's 5 globals. You can be capped. Every time you should be able to do that.
Which is insane. which it's basically the extra duration the LD gives you.
Yep, and if you want to learn a bit more, I do have the cooldown section here. It talks about using Avenging Wrath, about delaying Avenging Wrath. For Crusade, it talks about Crusade, about how you should use Crusade, because Crusade changes a little bit. So like here, Crusade gives you 1 stack by default. It stacks up to 10, so there's 9 stacks you have to make up. Those 9 stacks will be knocked out in 3 spenders. And you want to do that as quickly as possible. So in this case, this is the one case where you're prioritizing your spenders over your generators, regardless, until you have those 10 stacks. Also covers Shield of Vengeance, just a little bit of a note, which we'll talk about more later, but also trinkets, how to use a certain trinket. One of the more common questions we get in chat is, how do I use X trinket? You just come to the rotation section here, there's this example here. Like I said, it would be impossible to list every trinket, so there's just general rules on trinkets. Like, if the trinket does damage, such as Raz Dunks, which just explodes for some damage, you just use it on cooldown. One of the changes in Legion is that our cooldowns, they no longer buff damage sources outside of that aren't from Ret itself. So trinkets will not be buffed by wings, like their damage will not increase. So you can just use it whenever. But if you have a trinket that provides stats, like Plunderbeards, which provides primary stat, you want to use that inside your wings. And it's mentioned here in the first line that they should be delayed for your first damaging ability if using Avenging Wrath. Or when using Crusade, they should either be used at 10 stacks Crusade, or when the buff duration of the trinket matches the remaining duration of Crusade.
There's some special cases in this tier as well, because some raid trinkets aren't as streamlined as the just like use. For example, the haste trinket from Mechatork. If you're using a double use trinket, it allows you to use, let's say, a gladiator badge or like some sort of string on use trinket, and you can actually use it, the haste, at the start of the crusade, and then as soon as it's ready, you end at the end of crusade on strength 1.
Yeah, there are some fringe cases, but we usually recommend not to worry about them.
Yeah.
So like this section is 1 minute cooldown or less. Plunderbeards is 1 minute, so you would use once in wings, and 1 time in between wings. Now 2 minutes or less. A lot of cooldowns have a cooldown here, such as this one, which is 1 minute 45 seconds on Demon's Fury. Or like a Bygone B Almanac, it's 2 minutes, but your spenders reduce the cooldown. Also the Vial of Animated Blood, which is 1.5 minutes cooldown. You're gonna treat these as a 2 minute cooldown, and you're gonna be using them during your Crusade or your Avenging Wrath. And then there's a couple special trinkets like Merekthas and Grongs. They're both channeled trinkets, so you do not want to use them inside your wings, because that just the damage you gain from using those trinkets in your wings is actually less than if you were just using your abilities during your wing. It's not.
Yeah, Grongs isn't too good to use because you want to use it on that global cooldown, but at the same time, it's 4 seconds, moving, and if you're raiding Mythic, most of the times you might not be able to do it because you're going to move away. It's 4 seconds that you can't move, or your tank moves the boss away, or it does. Using it on Mechatork wasn't fun.
Yeah, you definitely have to be careful with it. If you do use it, you're going to want to have a cancel or a macro in case you have to move.
Yeah.
You can't just walk and break it. It actually locks you out. You have to cancel the buff.
It locks you out of everything.
Yeah, and also just ratios are covered there. Like here, Fireblood should be used during Avenging Wrath or Crusade at 10 stacks. Because you can see Fireblood's only 8 seconds. If it takes you until you have 8 seconds remaining on Crusade to get 10 stacks, you've messed up already, so. But definitely want to use those during your cooldowns. Alright, so one thing that we wanted to talk about some mythic bosses here and things we can do. But before we jump into that, I also want to we'll just talk about heroic Jaina first, because heroic Jaina is a bit of a harder fight, so we'll talk a bit about that. And generally, like normal and heroic Jaina, they're pretty similar. Off the top of my head, I can't tell you what exactly different, but a lot of the same mechanics you have to worry about.
I don't think Jaina cleaves on normal. That's crazy.
There's no soak thing in the last phase.
Oh, no orb. Okay.
And then I believe the water elemental doesn't do an interruptible. And then dumb things like the bombs last 40 seconds instead of 15 in phase. I just did this last night. That's the only reason I remember.
Yeah, so Jaina is a single target fight. And one thing as well, like the other guides in the Red FAQ, both Wowhead and Icy Veins, they have their own little tips and tricks section. I'm just going to bring up mine again because we're already here. So if you go to Mythic Rating at the top here, there's a drop down. We're doing troll raids, we'll go to troll raid. Now my page isn't fully filled in yet. I'm going to fill out some more of these later this week. But this is mainly aimed at Mythic. But a lot of the advice does carry on down to Heroic. Now, I don't have a lot of the things filled in, but I do have the talents filled in. Oh, I just zoomed out a little bit. Let's zoom back in. So, like, again, Jaina is a single target fight. So you're gonna stick to your Righteous Verdict. You're not gonna swap off that. The only time that you're really not using Righteous Verdict is if both ads at the start of the fight are there, which they die really fast, so it's not really AoE, or when people get ice blocked to you in a group, you'll use Divine Storm. But other than that, it's a single target fight. You want to pump as much damage into Jaina as you can. And one thing you'll see here is that for the level 100 talent row on any fight, not just Jaina, it's always Crusade or Inquisition. And in general, Divine Purpose isn't recommended because it is RNG talent. And for most people anyways, it does not sim the best either. It's usually Crusade or Inquisition. So you can sim yourself and find out. And if you do find that Crusade and Inquisition are very close, but one's better than the other, you can definitely feel free to swap around. But also remember, like Crusade, it's a very strong burst talent. So if you're if it's a shorter fight or a fight where a target has to die really fast and wings line up with it, Crusade is a very strong choice for that, just because.
Specifically, Jaina phase 3 is the burn phase.
I was gonna say I ran Inquisition for like 3 pulls on Jaina, and it felt bad. Crusade is just better on that fight.
And part of it is when you have to run around a lot, or if you don't get like max uptime, you're gonna see Inquisition. You just got a lot of time when you're not on the boss attacking. Inquisition might lose a fair amount of value.
One question we got is, how come you recommend Zeal over Righteous Verdict for Rastakhan? That's mainly for Mythic, because on Mythic, those ads, they last quite a while. There's enough of time you spend hitting Divine Storm, assuming you don't go downstairs, that you'll be doing that. But we'll talk about Rastakhan a bit later.
And in general, the difference between Righteous Verdict and Zeal isn't massive. Like, it's noticeable. I don't. A lot of people like, oh, which one do you go, Zeal and Righteous Verdict? If you're more comfortable with one or the other, then for the most part, you're probably fine sticking to it.
It just comes down to like, what does your group need? If your group is like destroying ads, then maybe you shouldn't be taking. If your group is struggling to kill this one target fast enough, maybe you shouldn't be taking Zeal.
Yep, it's flexible like that. So on Jaina,
just gotta use your brain.
So some of the important things, like, and the first phase is the boat phase. So the boat phase, it's pretty straightforward in normal and rogue. Your job is to hit the boss. If you do get the avalanche, I don't know what the debuff is called, the ice debuff on you in Jaina.
Avalanche.
Is it avalanche on the boat phase?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
So if you get avalanche and one of the cannons is on fire, you want to run over it. So use your horse, run to the cannon, and clear the fire off the cannon. Someone in your raid will probably call for that if they're raid leader. So be prepared for that. You can
You
get
also-
rooted in phase 1. If you want to break that, you can just use a Blessing of Freedom to break out of it.
Yeah,
but it's
you
not
don't have
super
to
important.
You don't have to take the fire damage, but it's usually not too big.
Well, yeah. I mean, you have to use the fire to remove the stacks, but if you want to get out of the root, then do that.
There's no
You
stacks
can
in
also,
phase 1. There's no stacks in phase 1, is there?
yes, there is.
You can get
Yeah,
stacks in
there
phase 1 if you get
Oh,
by the
really?
beam or other things.
Oh, the beam. Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
even just the grasp of frost puts stacks on you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a common thing, like
Um,
before you face the boss, it ready will tell you to clear the stacks, which means just walk in the fire and clear your stacks. You're not going to have
also
that many.
on the transition from phase 1 to 2, if you're in melee range, you get an extra stack. So that's
Yep.
something to keep in mind and not. If it's important, you can step out. It's not a big deal. It's just one of those small optimizations you can make.
Mm. You can also use freedom on like if somebody fails at getting in a fire patch during her big AoE thing in phase 1. And then they're just stuck there rooted. I've had to use that on people before. Just save the healers.
Yeah, and in phase 1, because it's not really dangerous, you can definitely cheese your Shield of Vengeance there. Just stand in the fire next to the boss and have it explode and walk out.
Yep.
The second phase is so before the second phase is that transition where you have to run down the hallway and normal road. It's the important thing there is you don't have to run through the room, because inside the room there are those little frost orbs. If you walk into one of those frost orbs, you get turned into an ice block, which is horrible. So if you're not comfortable dodging those because they do show up kind of late, just get through the hallway first and stay at the end of the room, and then once someone finds Jaina and the room is revealed, then you can feel free to run in. But if you are comfortable, you can keep on running through to where Jaina will be. But don't keep getting yourself ice blocked if you have a hard time dodging those.
You can bubble out of the ice block if you miss.
Yeah, bubble will not remove your stacks, but bubble will remove the ice block.
Yeah.
Which will be really important in phase 3. So phase 2 is pretty straightforward. It's run out with your debuffs. If you get a broadside, is it broadside or siege breaker for raking the barrels? I don't even remember.
Broadside is the barrel. Siege breaker is the
big one that you don't want to be in the group for.
Yeah, so siege breaker, just get the hell out. If you get broadside, depending on what it is, you might have to stand on a barrel, because by default the barrels are frozen and can't be damaged, and that broadside will break one of the barrels open, so you can break it. So if you are assigned to run to a barrel, just make sure to do that.
Chances are somebody faster than you will get the debuff as well. And like if you're not breaking, you don't need to get to BFE. The whole raid should be stacked on Jaina anyway, so like I don't know. I'm not immune to running out to the stray caster and dropping it right on them so they come into the bot.
There's also, even though we're saying this, at the end of the day, it's what your raid leader said.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
we're not saying, please follow what he says.
Yeah, but if you're not breaking, there are people I watch like in my own raid and streams and everything that get out super far with that, and there's really no reason.
Yeah, I guess in general right now, just to go over, in phase 1 right now, realistically, you'll probably get 2 wings in phase 1. So you can feel free to use the first wings. Your second set of wings in phase 1, though, that'll happen when Jaina wants to do her teleport or her flash freeze move where you have to run out. So delay your second wings until that move is over with, as an important note.
For us, like, she phases in the middle of my second wing, so I just, since I have Crusade, I just, you know, I pop it as I'm running out and just try to get stacks on the ads, because I'd rather lose, you know, the beginning uptime on her than not. So like be aware of that, because by the time I hit my wing, she's gonna be teleporting in like 20 seconds anyway. And holding it, I found at least, is just not worth it.
Yeah, in phase 2, when it comes to your wings usage, you can definitely just use your first set of wings on whenever. It's possible you might get a second set of wings And if you do, you could either use it on Jaina if you want to, or if you find your guild is struggling to kill the wall, then you'd want to save that for the wall to die, because the wall has to die. If you don't kill the wall, you wipe. So
Yeah. One like really helpful thing I realized that a lot of people don't have is like a combat timer. So if you're doing prog on a boss, you can say we got to the wall 5 minutes in and we're just wiping to this. So then you know that you know exactly when you need to use your wing. My wings are on cooldown, it's 4 minutes, but we are going to wipe if I use this right now.
Like I
There's
forgot
also
how long ago it was that I got an actual like little stopwatch to show up on my screen that just combat starts and it starts ticking, and it is probably one of the most helpful small things that I've had while
for sure.
is just knowing how far into the fight you are at any given time.
yeah, like if you're using details has an option for it as well.
Yeah, I usually I have a weaker that pops up when the start fights is where my tracker is, mostly because that's where my I usually am looking at for procs, appearing procs and stuff. It helps me plan so much stuff ahead. Like just knowing we're 2.5 minutes, we're 3 minutes, we're 4 minutes in.
Yeah.
Like it has the added benefit of other mechanics that you know when they happen. Hey, we phase transition, and if somebody else in the raid is like, "Hey, do you know what time this was?" Like, yeah, it was like 3.5 minutes, and like you have that information. It is so helpful. I can't.
I actually just assumed that everybody had something like this until we did Gahoon. And I was like, all right, you guys need to drop the orbs at this time. And they were like, well, how am I supposed to know? I was like, oh, not everybody has this? I'm just so used to it because I've been raid leading and it's really, like, invaluable. Oh my god, it's so good.
I can't undersell it at all. It is.
When we get to phase 3, I actually have something to talk about the images. There was a point of...
Yeah, we'll get to that. One thing I want to mention, like, if any of you were watching the World First race or watched the conclusion of it, where Josh was talking about cooldowns, like his bubble, because he was playing Diff, he's like, if I use... Like, I had this one spot I used my bubble. If I used it anywhere else in this part of the fight, I did it wrong. It doesn't matter if the raid died, my bubble wasn't meant to be used there. It's the same for wings. It doesn't matter if you die and didn't get to use your wings because you died before the wall. If you need to save your wings for the wall, that's your job. You want to do your job. Doing your job is what matters.
Yep.
Doing good damage is really nice, but if the boss doesn't die, then it doesn't.
And, like, eventually it will get to the point where it just doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
And, like, when your whole raid,
for then.
Yeah.
And when your whole raid gets more gear and the fight just goes faster, and things are going to line up differently at different times, and maybe that'll be better for you.
This tier seems weird, where a lot of fights get way better with gear, like Opulence being one of them.
Oh my god, it's crazy.
I think every single fight in this tier gets drastically easier with gear.
Good though, because it makes the instance rekillable a lot easier.
It's not like stupid.
We haven't had that in like we've had a lot of bad tiers for rekilling things. Like Tomb was terrible. Yeah.
Like Gahoon. I'm gonna say Gahoon as many times as I need to.
People just stopped doing Gahoon. You know, they got everybody CE and then they just stopped killing it. Because
like Method didn't do that. And someone runs like our Memo champion's like, hey, Method hasn't re-killed Gahoon. What? Is it because they can't actually kill Gahoon? No, it's because Gahoon drops no good loot.
Because why?
It's horrible to
I mean, yeah, he didn't drop anything good either. Like that was this icing on the.
There's no reason.
What about my 5 versions of the trinket I have in my bank?
R.I.P.
Of the
tentacle, yeah.
Oh no!
I got a Titan Forge one, Warforge one on the kill. I'm like, oh great, this is then I bonus rolled for another one.
Yeah, so after you kill the wall, you run down the end. There's an elemental and the Thanos. I mean, your guild might do it differently. If you're gonna kill the elemental and the Thanos, definitely do that. I mean, the Thanos has to be broken out of his ice block, but you can delay it a bit on normal and heroic. You generally want him to be broken out of the ice block before the freeze gets to you, because he stops that creeping wall of frozen death.
Yep. After that, phase 3 starts, and
this is where the fun begins.
Yeah, phase 3. Phase.
And in phase 3, if you get ice blocked more than once, you did it wrong.
Yes, especially if your group is forcing the ice blocks.
Yeah. As a note, in general, if you get ice block in phase 2, it's pretty sketchy as it is, unless your whole raid got ice block because the barrel didn't break. But in phase 3, you only get one ice block. When you get that one ice block, once you are an ice block, you press a bubble. So effectively, you're never ice blocked in that fight as red.
Literally, what we do is our healers, me and Thor, get ice blocked. Me and Thor break ourselves out, and then everybody else gets ice blocked, and we lust and break. Like, that's what we do.
Yeah, generally,
Stop.
You're gonna save, depending when your guild wants to be perma, like, does ice blocks on purpose. You might want to save that first crusade for after in phase 3.
It's just so good.
I don't know the timing perfectly off the top of my head, but if you use your wings on the wall, it might be up right around that time.
Yeah, if you use wings on
that
walls,
might be a little early.
Depends on how good so it be. I usually coming up. I usually either use it on walls or on the Xenos, depending on what's needed.
I just know we usually break ice blocks at like 7.5 minutes, so there is a point where I'm sitting on it for a little bit.
Yeah, so once you get some pulls on it, you'll know the timings, and you'll know when you should hold your wings or not, to get everyone out of those ice blocks really fast with Crusade and Light's Decree and Divine Storm. It's just an explosion.
Yeah.
What is that website where you can throw a login and it shows like the raid breakdown? Like
Wipefest?
Yes. You can always throw your login there and it'll show you the exact like timings of every ability that went off. So if you don't want to have that combat timer, you don't want to memorize it, you can always throw your login there. It's a lot easier than just like finding all of the boss mechanics yourself in the log.
Yeah. And in phase 3, there's another mechanic that I've seen people complain about as red, which is the image. Like, oh, I had to move out for the image. The image is absolutely no problem for you to move out. Cavaliers should do it if you want to use that.
The
And
boss
also
should be
with our
going
ranged
with you
ability.
anyway.
Yeah, and with the ranged abilities too, right? You can like look at it, and while you're running, you can judge into blade, or if you have wings up, you have hand. Like a lot of our abilities aren't melee range compared.
It is common for you to you horse once to get there, or you don't horse to get there, because as you're walking, you have one global cooldown. You said which shows you have another global cooldown that is blades, and by the third global cooldown, you should be near. And even if you miss one global, it's not a big deal in the world. Because those images need to die, right?
Yeah, if those images don't die, your raid's dead. The splitting ice, it's not fun.
No, that said though, they do take a while before they start casting stuff because they only mimic some of the spells.
Yeah,
and so it usually you can get them in time without too much problem. I don't want to say don't switch, but it's not the end of the world if you're 2 or 3 globals later to line things up right.
If your raid is struggling, then sure, get to it ASAP. But in general, you should be able to follow the boss there.
Yeah. It's not nearly as bad as some fights. Like Fetid was much worse than this. If you were on small ads,
Fetid was way worse.
Don't mention that boss in front of me.
Also in phase 3, you can definitely make liberal use of Blessing of Freedom, because those chilling touches do slow you down as well, and Blessing of Freedom won't remove its attacks, but it will counteract the slow.
Suppress, I think, is the technical term. Suppresses the slow.
Suppress.
Well, because it makes it not active while the buff is up, but as soon as your freedom fades, they're back to the...
Jane is fun.
It is.
And also in phase 3, just don't be in front of the tank.
Oh, yeah.
Our first...
Yeah. We didn't know there was a cleaving mechanic the first night we went on the Heroic China. And then the tanks were like, there's a cleaving mechanic, guys.
So I hope nobody in my guild is listening, because I'm going to throw a little bit of shade here. But somebody said something in the middle of Jaina the other week. Oh, did you know that if you're between her and her ability animation, and this is on the tank cleave one, that you still get hit? So if you're in front of her, because you know she does the big like circle in front of her and it shoots, right?
Yeah.
So I think there was this assumption that if you were behind the circle but still in front of Jaina, you wouldn't get.
Oh.
No,
It's
if
just-
your like shoulder is on it, even like if you're on her side, you're gonna get hit by it.
If you're the back, but your hitbox like touching hers, you will get hit as well. That thing is big hitbox.
If you have a hard time seeing which way she's facing, see if your raid will put a mark on a tank so you know where the tank is, so you know where you should stand.
And there's a fair number of fights in the instance that have those mechanics, like Conclave. That if you get hit by the tank cleave, it really.
Oh, we're gonna talk about that one.
Yeah, all I'm saying is that there's enough things in the instance and in general, I guess, that putting a mark on your tank's head is kind of a good idea in general, anyway.
Yeah, it is.
Before we move to other fights, you want to go over the other thing with plan, or you want to put that at the end?
Think about what?
The traits.
No, we're gonna do that at
changes.
the end. We're already.
Okay.
We're gonna talk
Alright.
about some mythic fights now. So we'll start from the top. The first fight is Champion of the Light, which for all intents and purposes is a normal boss. It is not a mythic boss. This boss is the definition of free loot.
Yeah.
It's a single target fight. Some guilds right now, they don't even have to kill the ads. Some people just kill the ads at the end to pad. It's a single target fight. You can just run Righteous Verdict.
I think next week we're actually going to just stack them on the boss and just go nuts at the start.
Oh, don't give my guild this idea. Like,
Yeah, we're gonna try to burn ourselves. We'll have to see if that actually works. I tried to get them to do it this week, but they didn't want to do it.
I don't know, start the progressing Gahun or tell people to chill DPS.
My guild still like, I'll watch people start running to the second set of ad. I'm like, this boss is at like 30%. Just kill it. So I expect in a couple of weeks, everyone will just be able to ignore the ads altogether and just zerg it.
Yeah, at the very least, you'll ignore the second set of ads.
If you, never mind. I was gonna, never mind.
Yeah, so Shield of Vengeance, there's a lot of things you can use it on. You can use it on Retribution Wave, which just happens periodically while you're attacking either Frida or Rwani if you're Alliance. Desert Judgment Reckoning, that's a pretty big damage burst there. If you're watching your timers, you can use it there. And also when the little Crusader dudes use their Divine Mallet, if you want to pop your shield and hit a mallet, you can do that. So it's very easy to use Shield of Vengeance on that fight.
I just do that so I can tunnel. I'll hit bubble too during my second wave, and because I just don't want to have to worry about it.
There's like no other use to bubble on this fight, so you can definitely save it for that if you don't want to move. Just bubble.
Just make sure you know when your bubble is going to be over, so you cease your tunneling.
Yeah.
Not from experience or anything. Just a pro tip.
I even mentioned here, like, a lot, if you're looking at Arses and you're wondering why you're not doing a lot of those high ranks, their guilds, they're just nuking everything. So if your guild's not doing that, you're not gonna parse well, probably.
And when your group as a whole is doing that much more, each individual person is going to be doing that much more as well, just because fight times are shorter, so you're going to see their damage numbers higher.
Just ignore super top logs. If you see, oh man, this guy's doing DPS, and then you go, 50-second duration fight. Maybe
Yeah. Okay. Can I double down?
How's this log? 50k DPS.
Can I double down just on the like? We see this a lot in Discord where it's like, oh, the top logs do X, I should be doing X, and it's like, don't the top logs occasionally use some cheese, or they're kind of tunneling things, or they're doing things that aren't normal for progress, and so it is not always the case that looking at what they do is going to give you the best performance.
Yeah.
Check the fight length. Check how their uptime on Retribution is.
Check the other people.
Check the ad. Yeah.
It's disgusting that some. Disgusting is a strong word, but I'll use it. It's disgusting that some logs nowadays have literally just, oh, this one guy solo DPS the other.
It's been that way since the dawn of time. I remember doing that for one of our warlocks in IC. And it's fun, so whatever. Just don't take that as
Yeah, so second fight for Horde is Grong. Grong is third for Alliance. And I have a question for you, Stone. On Alliance side, when those Revenants spawn, are they always next to each other?
They are always next to each other. Yes.
Okay, on Horde that's not the case. They can spawn and they can spawn and not be next to each other because for some reason Blizzard decided to do that.
Yeah,
no, in Alliance
they're always on the same side.
They spawn randomly around the room. They can spawn anywhere in the room, but they're always somewhat close to each other. What we do is we have everyone kill the closest, and move the boss that's needed or not, and then the other one gets finished off slightly after. So we have the timing of the orbs right, but they don't cleave range. You can cleave them. Usually.
Yeah, sometimes like there's a couple spots where they're in cleave range, and there's a couple spots where they're not. Like one spot, there's a set of stairs. We'll spawn one on each side of the stairs because that just makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's very annoying.
I think that was the point Wednesday when we were like, why don't you just go?
So yeah,
it was like we weren't gonna kill it.
If you're Horde, you're probably better off going Righteous Verdict. If you're Alliance, you can probably get away with using Zeal instead if you want to.
You still.
It's gonna be close though. It doesn't really matter.
It's still two targets. You still want to like focus on one as soon as possible, so the person doing the orb has enough time to call. Because
you'll probably be able to Divine Storm them in a couple of weeks, though. Let's be honest.
And like, if you kill them too quick, you might run into energy issues with them if you're not also killing the later ones that much faster, just because of when you want to use it and when you want to pick things up and time.
Also, probably won't matter in a few weeks.
Yeah, in a few weeks it won't matter because you only need the 2 and you can cool down through shit. But
yeah, like we're gonna have more health in a couple of weeks, you know.
I'm fully geared now. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Really?
How many sockets do you have?
4.
Not 7 sockets. Don't talk to me.
There's people in my guild that are like 415 right now, and I don't get it. I'm like 4. I don't know how to do this.
All right.
Also
for Grong, the only time you really need to use Shield of Vengeance is before Tantrum. Tantrum will break it 100% of the time, so just use it before Tantrum goes out. And Tantrum happens when the person's gonna throw the orb. And Blessing Protection, that should be used on the tank if a tank calls for it. It's mainly if they get a bad combo of getting multiple rending bites. Now, it no longer prevents the tank from being thrown if you're using for that. It'll prevent the physical damage to the tank, but the tank's still gonna get thrown across the room. So,
it's still really good. You know, if your tank is calling it on time and you can get it off, it's still...
Yeah, Blinding Light can be considered as a talent here because if you're not using an interrupt rotation, or if you are and it gets messed up, and for some reason no one has an interrupt for the Apetagonizer's Apetagonize cast, Blinding Light's a backup there for an interrupt.
Does it work on them?
I assume so. I don't see why it wouldn't.
For a second I was like, did he escape Jade? Then I realized you're Horde.
I don't think it works. Well, because like Blind doesn't work, right? And Blind's also Disorient, but it's a long-term one, so I don't...
CC rules are weird in this game.
Yeah, CC worlds are weird.
Things to science. I'll put it on my... I literally have a list. Hold on.
Things to science. I do like this. I want to share that I love using science as a verb. It makes me feel good.
All right, we'll move on to Jadefire here. So Jadefire is either the third boss if you are a Horde, or a second boss if you are Alliance. Like, depending on what your guild is able to do in terms of damage, will decide whether you want to go Righteous Verdict or Zeal. If you want to be safe, just stick to Righteous Verdict. If you're a Filthy Padlord, or if your guild just has really good damage, you can run Zeal.
Yeah, here, I do a weird thing on this boss, but then again, I haven't had a good try on this boss because I'm bad at this game. If your guild is popping hero after the first 7 set strike, holding Crusade a little might be worth it. Especially if you...
Our guilds doing that? Guilds are doing that? I guess. Or
yeah, my
start? Okay.
Heroes after the first.
Yeah, we do it at the start because the goal for us, anyways, if we try and push them to 60% before the first 7 sided, she'll go directly into the explosion ball miss, which means you can push back when you get the cats a little bit, and then you can beat the second set of cats and get the maze before it. It's
the reason we do it is people want Airwind plus the 25% damage buff plus cooldowns there.
Yes, lots of multi-sided strike. The biggest thing that people struggle to counter is the multi-sided strike. It picks a bunch of people in your raid. You get thrown into the air, and you gotta do the little face the monk minigame. And they spawn in different spots, but it's always the same color order. It's always blue, green, red, green, blue. That's all you need to remember. If you look at them in the correct order, you get 5 stacks of the buff. You get a 25% damage increase. So if you do mechanics, you gain damage in this case. So do mechanics.
Feels bad.
And also, if you really doubt your ability to do that for whatever reason, if you use Divine Shield before that cast happens, you won't get set up. That's something you could also do.
One tip for it, if you can turn your UI off, many people that in my raid group found it extremely helpful to just turn the UI off, do it, and then turn your UI back on as soon as the minigame's done.
I'm going to be the negative person here and say if you have to turn your UI off to do this, your UI is bad.
Well, I don't know, because sometimes like where your stuff is on your screen might just happen to be on top of where one of the dudes.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Maybe
right, but like, bad. Are you gonna put stuff near the center of your screen because that's where it's gonna happen? Like, I don't think that's that big of a.
I feel like this is a bigger debate than.
Yeah, I was gonna say it personally for me. Like where everything is, my setup of my V-Course is literally right below the circle, so it doesn't overlap.
Maybe I need.
I try to put everything in like a condensed bubble. Like in the center of my screen, like under my character, and I see people that have everything at the bottom, and I can't comprehend.
Yeah, because like you want to. I mean, I guess this is again a bigger issue, but my philosophy for UI is more like you don't want to have to be looking all over, or moving your eyes a lot to get small amounts of information. And so things that are close to the center of my screen are all clustered around each other, kind of close to the center of the screen. Means I don't have to look in a lot of different places. And it's for something like this particular thing where things are all around you and you have to spin around, I find it just a lot easier to hide the UI and leave my shit close, compact.
End of the day, it's preference, right? I always tell people, like, if I don't know anything about your UI, it means your UI is working. Like, as a raid leader. If I don't know that your UI is shit, then clearly it's not shit enough.
I think we still have, like, the UI picture on our guild app, and a lot of people.
I don't even want to see it. I don't want to know. If I don't know because of your performance, then I don't need to know.
I think for us, though, part of it is just, can you follow basic, simple instructions, which most people can.
We can go in the fringe case of the Red Paladin that got world third from China. And
that Goku Holy Power, though. I need that in my life.
Goku Holy Power UI with numbers. Oh shit.
You haven't seen it?
I haven't seen this.
Oh my god.
Please, someone share it.
I'll share you. Okay, so... Oh my god, it's amazing. So it's Goku, and when he props wings, he turns into Super Saiyan 3.
Oh, please. This
is
my lucky day.
Like,
I PM'd you.
I don't think it'll go through the stream, but I'm going to play it through the stream for everybody.
Hell yeah. It is. We're getting completely off topic, by the way.
Oh, it's worth it.
Okay, is the boss transition soon?
Look at this.
I love it so much.
It's the fucking Dragon Ball.
Yeah, yes. Dragon Balls are the only power. Also, look at the size of those numbers. What is that?
I don't get how people want UIs that big.
So, and just as a note, like where his target and his own personal frame is on Jadefire, that would potentially cover one of the things.
Yeah, it definitely would.
His UI is huge, though.
Yeah. And so so the point is, like, if hiding your UI is a potential decent tool for that situation, it feels weird to do it, but if people are looking for tips on stuff, that's definitely a tip that we figured out early on and really helped.
All right, back on target.
Oh, yeah, back on target.
Some of us have to go in a little bit.
So we'll do the power through now. So Shield of Vengeance, you can use it on a bunch of things in the fight. There's Burnout, which happens throughout the fight. The explosion when those little explodey boys blow up. The Flash and Blaze from the Phoenix, all good. Divine Shield will let you soak magma traps. If you press Divine Shield and run through the traps, they go away. You don't get knocked up. If you're not paying attention and you walk in a trap and you get knocked up, then you could either use Divine Shield or Bop so you don't die from fall damage. Now, the little maze that happens, Divine Shield and Bop will let you run through the ring of hostilities. You can ignore them, so you can Bop. Or if your guild has smart warlocks and they put it in a good spot, you just warlock it across. But either way, that's something you can do. And Hammer of Justice is very good to use on the spirits as well, because it lasts 6 seconds. That's longer than all the AoE stuns. So usually what happens, you'll stun the close one and you'll just nuke it down. A good use case. So Opulence it's pretty much a single target fight. Most of the time it's single target, and there is a large AoE burst window at the end there, but you can safely stick with Righteous Verdict. If you want to go Zeal and try it, you can, because again, those talents, they're just very close. It's not a large difference. So, important notes, Blessing of Protection is used for Coin Shower and Coin Shower only. If you use it on something else, you're doing the fight wrong. If your raid leader tells you to take the Ruby, you take the Ruby. If they don't tell you to take the Ruby, take the Opal. That's also pinned in questions in Red General, so.
I'd like to point out, too, if you're going to use Bop on somebody else, please for the coin shop. Please make sure that they know that it's happening and they get it before it happens, because otherwise you end up with somebody running in, not knowing what's happening and nuking like 3.
Don't insta-bop them. They should run out first and call for it.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, also, I believe the coin shower duration is like the debuff that lets you know you have it is slightly longer than the bop duration, so you need to wait a couple seconds before you use it anyway.
Yeah, just make sure they know what's happening. Or you're gonna kill someone.
Yeah, and like don't wait for the last second either. Bop has what, 10 seconds?
8 seconds.
8 seconds, sorry. Maybe Freedom, whatever.
Or was it 10?
So like,
no, it's 10. It's 10. My bad.
10.
Okay, yeah. So it's like you don't have to cut it close. You can just like wait a couple seconds, hit it on them, you're good to go, you go back.
Saying can bop you when they understand what's happening and they're out is probably enough time that you can bop. Just please make sure that everybody knows what's happening. Or you can be like Thor and say, yeah, I'll bop you. Or somebody calls for a bop and he says nope, and legit doesn't do it and they die.
And because you're a paladin, if you get Coin Shower on yourself, you don't have to bop yourself, you can run out and press Divine Shield. So
just don't press it too early, as we mentioned earlier.
I mean, if there's one person you don't like and they're slightly off the group, you can go ahead and nuke them if you want, but
they shouldn't have been out. They should have been with the stack.
If you get liquid gold, don't be an asshole. Force out and run up the stairs and drop your liquid gold as far away as possible.
Why are you so toxic, Reb?
Because I know we can kill it and also punish the dirty patter that doesn't want to come into.
Also, the most important, not most important, but the thing that people will struggle with the most in the fight is, it's the first phase, is the golems. A lot of melee tend to be on the right side, but in the fight, you can get chaotic displacement, which will swap you with someone else to the other side. The important thing is before that chaotic displacement goes off, you want to stop moving. Because once you get teleported, you will have 10 seconds of immunity. So if you get teleported into a fucking hellhole, you can survive if you stand still. So after you have a safe path to the golem, then you can move. But take use of that time.
Yeah, it's going to be like a hands up situation. Assess the situation and move on.
So if Volatile charges out, which is a debuff on the left side, both people who are getting swapped should move out of melee, because you don't want to drop that charge in melee. So both people should ideally be pre-moving to the sides of the room or the back of the room if Volatile charge is happening during a swap.
This is on Mythic, of course.
Yeah, this is on Mythic. So Conclave. Conclave is pretty straightforward. You attack the boss. You kill the raptors. If a raptor comes out, you want to kill the raptor. If you need a...
they're still stunnable and slowed in.
Yeah, you can still stun the raptors, and you can still slow them. There's a buff they get where you can't stun or slow them. I forget what it's called, to be honest.
Yeah.
But,
and it's when they get close to each other, but it is dispellable.
So you can.
Yeah.
And I think there's also a graphic under their feet that you can see a little.
Yeah, so if they're stunnable, make sure to stun them if it's getting close to you or whatnot. So kill the raptors. Raptors are #1 priority when they come out. If you don't kill the raptors, you lose. Because they're going to maul somebody. Because someone's not going to run from them. Because they're going to be lazy. So, take it upon yourself to not be lazy and kill the raptors. Second most important thing is when Kimball is out, Kimball will use a move called Lacerating Claws, which is like an AoE in front of him. Don't be in front of Kimball. That debuff lasts like 45 seconds, and Bop in Divine Field does not remove it.
It stops the damage for the duration, but it does not remove the debuff.
It'll stop the damage for like either 10 seconds or 6 seconds. That might be enough to save you, but it does not remove the debuff. So don't get hit.
It is not enough to save you from the wrath of your healers.
Also, it does stack.
It does stack. If you get a second stack, you're just dead. So.
You're just done. Yeah.
We did normal, and I believe we did heroic. And I was like, it's just heroic. I'll stand in front of it to pop my Divine Shield. 2 stacks. Nearly killed me. And I used everything. Between Leon Hands and Elstone and Shield of Vengeance.
Yeah, on Conclave, it's... You pretty much, for wings, you can use wings on cooldown here for the most part. Top of my head, there's really no reason to not wings on cooldown. When you're in Paku's circle, watch out for the brown circles, because if you get stomped by a frog and get knocked out, you very well could die. Now, when the tanks are running to the circles, be very careful of Kimball again, because they have to drag the boss through the raid, probably, to get him into the circle. So be careful while they position themselves. I mean, just do mechanics. If you get little lightning orbs, run out and drop your orbs off in the middle of nowhere on the edge of the room. The fight, it's a simple fight. It's a lot easier overall than Opulence, for sure. If you can kill Opulence, you can definitely kill Conclave.
Yeah, I mean, we took way longer than I'd like to admit on Conclave. I think we did it in like less than 10 pulls, or maybe 10-ish pulls on Conclave.
Alright, so Rastakhan. Rastakhan is, because the ads have a lot more health on Mythic, and they tend to live quite a while. And especially if you're on top, which you should be, we'll talk about, you probably want to go Zeal, just because. If you want to, you can run RE, but this is one of the fights where I say you should probably just go Zeal to start with. But Rastakhan, there's 2 strategies. There's the low IQ strat, where the melee gets sent down to the death zone. You have to dodge stuff, which is no fun. So if you do get stuck with the low IQ strat, you're gonna want to save. Depending on when you push on Mythic, you might have to save your second set of wings, because you want to make sure you have your wings for that phase. When you go downstairs on Rastakhan for Bonsomdi, you have to have your wings, because you have to push that as fast as possible. If you don't save your wings for that, you've messed up. Now, if you're using the 200 IQ strat and a range are getting sent down and they're hiding behind their Trump wall, then you can just pop your wings on cooldown up top. And that's the fight.
I can't believe they called it that.
I don't know, man. It works. If you haven't noticed, the things that people tend to call things in Mythic are sometimes not the best, I guess. But
I don't know, man. Like, I run a pretty casual and awesome guild. I don't know what you hordes.
A lot of things that get named are pretty toxic, so.
I don't know, man.
It's
My
just
guild
a
is not toxic at
byproduct.
all.
I'm not trying to offend anybody, but this is how it is. So that's Rastakhan.
I don't condone to this behavior.
Rastakhan also, if you get mind controlled, you can bubble out of it, so do that.
But also, Tremor Totem works and will break the mind control. So if you have shamans in your group, that is a huge bonus.
Yeah, that's also.
You even have a shaman in your group, though.
If you don't have a shaman in your group,
Resto shamans are really strong right now.
Yeah, I'm making a joke. I have to.
Yeah, if you don't have a shaman, you have a monk. A monk can put a ring of peace on the totem, so the guy doesn't get cleaved down accidentally if it's in melee. Because a lot of times that the poor person
Which is
gets
a
mind
real
control just
problem.
gets fucking shit on.
Like it's a
And
genuine
people are
problem.
like, "Why did I die?" And it's like, because you have 180,000, so you just fell over.
So Mechatorque on Mythic, there's 3 main things that happen on Mythic that are you have to worry about. There's one is that when you do run behind one of the walls to drop your Gigavolt, it puts a puddle on the ground. So you definitely want to make sure you're putting your puddle in a good spot, because other people will have to run back behind that. So if you're dropping the earlier puddles, maybe put yours further back so when people run in, they don't run into a puddle.
There's not much to say about like.
Also on
in
Mechatorque,
general.
on Heroic, they shrink people. On Mythic, there's people that grow. They get the gigantic buff and they can stomp regular people. So don't stomp people, please.
Or
Okay.
do.
Also,
Every time.
and the main thing in Mythic that happens when he does his little wormhole, when he teleports, there's a chance he'll knock somebody up or knock you up. And if you do get knocked up, you can definitely bubble or bop to avoid that fall damage, because fall damage is not good. On Mechatorque as well, it's a fight where I say you probably don't want to cheese your Shield of Vengeance. You probably actually want to use it defensively in this case, because there's a lot of damage in that fight, especially in the intermission phase. So
It's like one of the like uncommon fights where all of the there's a lot of just random damage.
Yes.
So you can kind of use it reactively so your healers can like catch up.
And if you're on Stormwall Mythic, it's as a melee. I mean, you just do mechanics and you attack the boss. That's pretty much it. There's nothing super special about it. And Jaina, we can't really talk about Jaina Mythic. I mean, you've seen videos of Rets. You can go watch that for now. We'll have more information up later once we actually get to it ourselves.
Yeah, I don't
More
think
precise
anyone
things.
in this.
No, I have no personal experience.
I'll be back here in like 3 months to tell you about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's
when
gonna be
Crucible
back-
of Storms comes out, we'll let you know how Jaina works.
Rep's gonna
That's
come in
not
3
to
months.
say that Red is bad. It's just me.
It's just that Reb, not Ret, Reb is
Yeah.
Rep's gonna come back in 3 months and go, okay, so we finally have heroic chain on farm
Oh my
properly.
god. It's not that bad.
I don't know, I'm being a dick.
So that's right now. There's one more thing that we wanted to go over. Well, I guess a combination of things. So some things that happened recently is that there's been some nerfs and some bug fixes. So the biggest thing that happened was that Light's Decree did get nerfed by 30%. Other specs unaffected.
God, knew it!
Treacherous
Filled
Covenant got a 10% nerf. Dagger in the Back got a 10% nerf. And for some reason, Champions of Azeroth also got a 10% nerf.
What was that about?
Just in case you're not aware, Champions of Azeroth is either available on leveling Azerite gear or as a 355 piece from Magni for Champions of Azeroth. It's not available on an actual viable piece for raiding, so.
I wonder where they got that idea to nerf that.
They definitely didn't just look at a chart and seen that Champions was high and nerf it. They would never do that.
No, probably not.
No, this is a 400.
They have their own internal sims anyway, so.
Yeah, but they're
this
just a
is
small
400.
indie company.
God damn it, the meme. It's a
Remember
400.
that time we had a whole discussion on how to not be toxic with your feed?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, that was our first
Completely
episode.
Yeah, it's a 400 IQ play. They in the next raid, that trait is coming back, so they're pre-nerfing it to prepare. That's what happened.
I'd be okay with that, but we'll see. Alright, so those were the nerfs. Now what happened is that previously Divine Purpose and Imperium Power would not proc the damage of Light's Decree. They actually changed that. Divine Purpose and Imperium Power will actually proc Light's Decree damage now. So the way this works out, as far as single target, it's about, on average for most people, about a 1.5% nerf overall to single target damage. But because Imperium Power can now proc Light's Decree, it's actually an AoE buff. So there was a blue post by Ethan's, or again, I have no idea how to say his name.
The
Yak.
Like
the
if someone shows him and clips this and tells him to like record him saying his name and tweet it, that'd be very helpful.
I'm just gonna tweet him right now.
Okay. I really don't want to keep on saying his name wrong. I really don't. So, all right. So they said the nerf was targeted mainly at AOE, but they buffed her AOE though. So I don't think it was fully thought through. So if we get nerfed again, I apologize.
I think it was a two-part thing where the intention was to nerf AOE, but the bug fixes that didn't, like, the designer decided to nerf by a certain percent, but then whoever was working on the hotfix, it seems like a miscommunication and not like well thought out.
To be more precise, if you don't get a single proc in wings with EP or DP, it's a nerf. Or if you get a single proc in AoE, it's a buff. If you get more than one proc, you're just rolling in it.
Well, that's the other thing too, right? It's during the cooldown, it's bigger, but it doesn't really do anything outside of wings being up.
Yeah. Or there's also a couple things that were just adjusted in Simcraft that weren't working quite right. That one thing that happens in live is that Wake of Ashes. It actually double dips haste for its global cooldown, so it recharges the global cooldown a lot faster when you press Wake. That's now added to Simcraft, so it's more reflective of in-game behavior. Second is that another in-game bug is that Inquisition is actually not buffing auto attack damage for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So I have a bug tracker here, so I can see Inquisition is not increasing the damage of auto attack. So that's a slight nerf to Inquisition that is actually implemented in Simcraft now as well. As you can see, still Holy Power interactions, they're a bit inconsistent. I need to fix that probably. I need to actually test that, how Fire's Justice works with Crusade. So I'll test that one later, I guess. But I think they're gonna be treating this the same way as trinkets. Like our free spenders, they won't work on trinkets, but they'll work on Crusade now. That's probably their intended behavior. That would resemble their whitelisting of damage trinkets, which I assume is what they're doing. But it could also be an oversight. I really don't know. But most likely okay. That's their intent now.
I don't know either.
All right, what's this use of this? Again, if you're navigating rather than scrolling, if you use the little nav bar, you can definitely jump around, or Control F. Control F is a life saver. You can just type in whatever you want. Click on the down arrow. Whatever you want to do. So one common thing here, or I didn't mention Avengers. Okay, Avengers Might also had a fix. It was not working properly with Crusade plus Light's Decree. It was not lasting the entire 30 seconds. That is fixed now. Because that is fixed, the value of Avengers Might has gone up a little bit. It's now a very strong talent. But again, what we're running into is we're getting a case of people, they're not reading the charts quite right. They see that Light's Decree is above Avengers Might, so they assume stack Light's Decree. Again, that's not how it works. As you can see here, it's split by 1, 2, and 3 stacks. So that first rank of Light's Decree is worth a lot. It's worth 6.81. The second rank of Light's Decree is only worth 3.22%. Not as much. Go to Avengers Might. Avengers Might is worth 3.9% for its first rank. Second rank is 3.76. Third rank is 3.94. So it's fairly consistent. So again, that first rank is worth more than the second rank of Light's Decree. And also, what doesn't properly get shown is that when you have a Light's Decree already, the value of Avengers Might goes up. 1, because wings now last 5 seconds longer. And 2, because Light's Decree is an additional source of holy damage, and our mastery buffs our holy damage. So it gets stronger. And just to illustrate that a little bit, we have it here. There's no Azerite. A single Avengers Might, 3.9%. A single Light's Decree, 6.8%. 2 Avengers Might totals 7.6%. 2 Lights Decree is 10%. A single Lights Decree and a single Avenger's Might, 11.2%. So they get stronger together. It is definitely a symbiotic relationship that's going on there.
Get
Synergy is fun.
a symbiotic relationship.
I hate this.
All right. So just 2 other things, because people were curious. They probably want to know what is considered the best Azerite combos for single target and AoE. I've done a couple of sims here of the available raid gear at 415 and the available Titan Residuum gear at 415. Again, this is just if you're curious. I did it just because I was bored. So again,
Skills gets bored a lot.
Yeah. So for single target, our 2 best overall are still from the raid: the Helmet of Tempered Jade, which is from Jade Fire Masters, and also the Breastplate of Divine Purification, which is from Champions. So again, the first 3 bosses in the raid all drop good Azerite, so it's really easy to get a 415 Azerite if you can kill the first 3 bosses. For shoulders, it's actually the Syraxi Binders Pauldrons are the better shoulder option rather than the ones from Mechatork or the ones from Grong. It's only slightly better. This is like absolute min-max here. It's not a huge difference, but if you're curious. And I also ran 1 top gear for Dungeon Slice. So you can see when we switch to Dungeon Slice, again, because Mythic Plus is good for Dungeon Slice. In Mythic Plus, Treacherous Covenant is bad in Mythic Plus. You can die very easily. Yeah. It's very sketchy. If you're running Treacherous Covenant Mythic Plus, you have to play very carefully.
And like you're just gonna not have the buff up as often because in Mythic Plus there's just more sporadic or more bursty kind of damage, especially when you're pushing higher level.
I just haven't even set it as an option for right now on raid bots, like when I'm picking traits. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
And for AoE, like the helmet from Jaina is best. Honestly, killing Mythic Jaina and getting Azerite helmet is probably pretty low, but if you wanted the absolute best, it was that. And for shoulders was Lockjaw, which is from the Residuum, and the chest guard, also from Residuum. So that was going for what was considered the best Azerite traits, quote unquote, our best pieces. Also, this could always change. Someone might find some weird setup that just happens to work better. Anything is possible.
It's gonna depend on your gear too, you know, because a lot of things are gonna be close. So don't.
One thing to mention, because
don't just go for this because one sim said it.
You'll see that it says 420 for the item level. That's because on some of these pieces, I didn't pick the little Azerite trait for plus eye level. I just set the piece itself to 420. And on this one here, it's actually properly set. So this helmet is effectively a 420 because Azerite Empowered is there. I just didn't want to set the bonus IDs on these. I just set the item level to 420. So these are the same item level. It's not actually different. As a note. And one thing I wanted to go over in Raidbots. Raidbots has a couple other things that were updated. One is the Droptimizer. If you want to use the Droptimizer, you can do that. If you're premium, it'll also do Azerite. If you don't have premium, it won't give you Azerite, but it will show you your pieces. I don't know how long this actually takes. We're going to find out. I don't remember.
Yeah, as long as it's single target, it'll go through pretty quick, but...
So, we're going to do Mythic. Single difficulty. We're just going to do Battle for Zaralor. I'm going to uncheck Higher Precision just so it runs faster. And generally, probably don't even need that. We'll run that. And we'll let it run. We'll talk about something else really quick. So we'll let the Droptimizer run. We'll show you how that does. So. Other things that are now on Raidbots. One is the Zuldazar. So this will enable, if you have this piece, to get to the lowest set if you're a strength user. Or not strength user in general, it's a ring and a cloak. So if you use this set, if you have the ring and the cloak and you check this box, it gives you that 150 stat buff for your primary stat. This does work inside the raid. It also works inside King's Rest and Ataldazar. Just as a note. Now, the second thing that changed that doesn't show, or sorry, first, Treacherous Covenant, there's an uptime selection here if you want to change it. Realistically, on most fights, you're going to be like 95% plus uptime. But you can also sim different uptimes here as well. You can choose whatever you want to do. See how it performs. So if you want to change that to 90 for a little bit more accurate idea, you can do that. A third change that's more behind the hood that you don't see unless you're in the right discords is that Jess Howler, which is the trinket. I think I have one actually, so let me scroll up. Yeah, one here. Is that by default it was not splitting the versatility. This does split the versatility by default now. So this will now sim accurate. I mean, it was accurate before, but it's accurate now too. It's just more representative of what actually happens in game. Just a small note there that it does split by default now. And see here, our drop optimizer is done.
Wow,
so it'll give you a boss summary. It'll show you your expected value and your best drop from that boss. You can kind of use this to decide when you want to, or what boss you want to coin. So like for me, the first boss for me, or not first boss, Jadefire, the only upgrade for me is the helmet. So High Tinker, it has shoulders and a trinket. Grong, it shows you here. Oh, Grong, you see this trinket. This trinket is horrible. But there is a 200 IQ strat for Grong.
Yes.
Super secret strat.
Before you kill Grong, change your loot spec to Holy. When you change your loot spec to Holy, it removes this trinket from the loot table, and there's no new loot added. So the only gear you can get will either be the shoulders, the wrists, or the cape. So switch to Holy loot spec for Grong and Grong only. After you kill Grong and you do your loot in your roll, if you're rolling, switch your loot spec back to ret. Don't forget.
Or be like me and forget to put Holy and bonus roll a Grong.
Yeah, or do that and be very sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it shows you your upgrades there. I mean, a lot of times you'll see what bosses that have weapons will show up, but unfortunately, I got very lucky. I got a 425 weapon, so they don't show up there. But
oh, look at me, I'm scared.
Wow.
I just want to show that off. Just 425, by the way. But yeah, useless. You can use this. There's also more information down there.
That's pretty much it for today. Like in terms of topics we have to talk about. Not sure if we missed anything that we had planned.
Yeah, I think we hit all of our main points here. If you guys do have any additional questions, definitely check the Ret FAQ first. There's a lot of good information in there. Check the pins and Ret questions. There's information in there. If you do run into a situation where you need help, again, just go to Ret questions. You can ask your question. It's best to give as much detail as possible. I mean, don't write us a novel or anything, but definitely give us a couple lines at least.
So the one thing we missed, I think, in chat was the macro for the cast sequence.
Oh, thank you. Cast sequence macro. I mean, I just have it on my guide here, so I'll go to my guide. On the main guide, there's add-ons macros section. There's a cast sequence macro. Here's slash cast sequence. Reset equals 20. That just means after 20 seconds, it'll switch back to the first action. So if you have Avenging Wrath, you can put Avenging Wrath. If you have Crusade, you can type Crusade. And then either 13 or 14. 13 or 14 are your trinket slots. The first slot is 13. The second slot is 14. So the way this macro works is your first button press will be wings. And if you press the button a second time, it'll be your trinket, or whatever you assign to it. It's very useful to keep both of those on the same button, but not have them both activate at the same time.
That wouldn't work for me because I meshed the shit out of my cooldowns.
And I think that was it.
If anyone has any questions on stream, we can still answer. If not, you always know where to find. And just an off-topic thing. I'm more than happy to help. I'm more than happy to go over the logs and answer people's questions. But please don't be just an asshole to people in terms of like asking questions. If we're giving you the answer and you don't like the answer, that's still the answer, right? I'm not gonna try and sugarcoat it in terms of, because one thing that people do a lot is they try to take the blame from them from not being able to play well. Oh, it's my raid leader. Oh, it's my add-on. It's this fight. It's the spec, right? I personally really hate that because that's against self-improvement and that's against the whole point of having a class Discord to help people.
And it might be their fault, but you can't change them, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Focus on the things that you can do, even if it's not like the problem, it's still a problem. Just focus on the stuff that you have control over.
I know the whole Simit has become a bit of a joke, but that's legit the best option. We giving you general idea would be us misleading you.
Yeah, as an example, you come on Discord, you ask us, "Hey, how is the alchemy trinket?" We're gonna tell you to submit. What you do, you go to raid boss, click on gear compare, have your name in, scroll down, click in this box, type in the trinket. I'm just gonna type alch. So pick the appropriate stone, click it, choose what slot you want to place. If you want to place trinket 1, choose trinket 1. If you want trinket 2, do trinket 2. If you want to test both, click on add gear set. Type in box.
You can just duplicate it.
That'd be fast too, but I already did this way. we'll do that though. Duplicate. Trinket 2. Scroll down. Or you didn't have to scroll down. Scroll down. It's there. Click on compare items. Let it sim. It's that easy. It's not a complicated process to sim your character nowadays. Now, if you don't have premium, it'll take a little bit longer. But if you do have premium, well, there you go. You now know if this item is an upgrade for you in either of your trinket slots.
Yeah, because
the more work you put into your question and the more you try and kind of work, the more we're going to be willing to help you and engage as well.
Like if you come in and you're like, I tried this, I tried that, I looked at this guide, I watched this video, and I'm just stuck. Guess what? People are going to flock to try to help you.
Multiple people who want to help you in that case.
Yeah, because at that point, it's like not only do we want to help people, but it becomes like a problem-solving situation.
Yeah, and don't lie. Don't go, I've read the red fact, but I don't know this question. And it's like, what's the haste cap? Like,
did you try using your eyes, Philip?
Like,
even then, like at this point, we're just kind of ranting because that doesn't happen super often.
yes,
people are generally good.
Yeah, no, I'm happy for the community we have in the Paladin Discord. I'm super thankful for it, really.
Yeah, but if anything else comes up, definitely just let us know in chat.
Yeah.
I'll have this uploaded to YouTube later. So if you go to our YouTube channel, which is in the link below, you can always watch the VOD there because Twitch deletes VODs very fast. But thank you everyone who was here today, and thank you all for watching. And I hope everyone has a good day.
And may all your hits be crits. Poof!